Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be reading a multi-character thriller by me. So let's get into it. Albedo, you're exploring a cave in Dragon's Spine, and things just seemed ominous that day. He didn't know why, but something was not going right. And even though you had no idea what it was, you were not going to stop there because your instincts were telling you to get out immediately. And it just so happened that Albedo was the one who got out first. And then the ground shook. The cave started to collapse. And that, somehow, made Albedo move at an inhumane speed, going over to you quickly and picking you up, shielding you with his flower. And thankfully, the two of you managed to get out before the building collapsed on you. Albedo frantically looking you over, making sure that you were uninjured. And after he did that, he hugged you close, apologizing, and just saying that he was glad that you were alright. You were too shocked to respond, but you still melted into his arms all the same. Glad that he was there for you and that he saved you. Honestly, he didn't know what would have happened without Albedo by your side. But right now, you're not going to dwell on that. Instead, you're going to be grateful that he's right there. And the two of you are okay. Thanks to him. Venti, you are visiting old places. Places where the Arkham War took place. It was for history purposes, a history lesson held by Venti, which was something rare, since Venti almost never gave lessons. He didn't like talking about the past too much. But it was his part of coming clear to you about many things that you didn't know. And now you have to, since you're officially partners. And of course, this happened in due time. But then, the mountain was beginning to collapse, and you were right underneath. Vinti paled, feeling like everything was passing in slow motion. And thankfully, by the wind, he made you float out of the way and held you in his arms as the mountain fell flat. And it just so happened that no one else was around, but you could feel Venti trembling as he held you, looking you over, his eyes wide. Something off about them, something you couldn't tell. But he just held you close, refusing to say anything. And he waited until you got home. He didn't say anything further to the day, to be honest, but he took care of you, and you decided it was okay after you gave him that scare. Perhaps morning would be a good time for you to talk, because it seemed like you had some flashbacks, and you wanted to know what all of that was about. Kazuha, you were adventuring through a domain, and there were many treasure hoarders. The fighting taking place, already making the ground shake, as people were screaming and yelling. He had no idea what was going on. You were just going there to retrieve something that someone had stolen from you. And it just so happened that everything turned upside down the moment you and Kazuha entered, much to your misfortune. And right now, the two of you are fighting for your lives. And it was only until some debris began falling that you noticed that whatever was happening was going to be dangerous. And the debris didn't stop. A huge rock falling. And you let out a scream as the rock was falling right above you. And Kazuha stepped in, just right before it could destroy you completely, holding you tightly. And He ran with you in his arms, the building collapsing behind you. And as soon as the two of you were out, Kazuha collapsed with you in his arms, holding you and just relishing the feeling of you being alive and well. Scaramouche, the Fatui were being ambushed by Diluc. He didn't know why he was there, but even though Scaramouche could completely defeat him, he wasn't alone. He had you to protect, and the Fatui guards did not stand a chance before Diluc. Diluc could single-handedly take them all down, and Scaramouche could not focus on him, not when he had you to protect, and he could not leave the task of protecting you to anyone else. He didn't trust him enough. And it just so happened that Diluc set the building on fire, and it was collapsing, slowly. Scara set out on a search for you, calling out your name, and you could sense the fear in it. As you tried to shout back, and he only found you collapsed near the fire, barely managing to save you from it, and heading out with you in his arms, sneakily running away and leaving Diluc to deal with the building that was currently fuming. And later on, when you were safe, he would deal with that pesky knight himself. Xiao, you were in the chasm, and basically, you were supposed not to go there. Why? It was dangerous. And multiple times, Xiao has warned you not to go there at all costs. And yet, here you were, adventuring with a friend. And the friend just happened to go back to the camp. And you waited, telling them that you wanted to see something and that you'll be right back. Which was okay. Of course it would be okay, unless it was you, because you were unlucky. And the chasm just happened to shake violently, and rocks started falling. And you were running, but time was also faster than you. And it felt like the rocks were outrunning you, and soon enough, it would be your head smashed against the ground. But just the mere thought of Xiao in your head seemed to summon him. You didn't know if it was a thought, or if it was the fact that you were scared and in danger, and somehow he sensed it. But he was here. You felt him hold you, and suddenly you were outside, against the grass. Xiao looking over you angrily. Haven't I told you not to go there before? Why didn't you listen to me? He said, and his eyes were wild and bright, something fury in them, and you couldn't quite identify it, but you saw it. It was anger, and fear, and concern. And he looked at you, your quietness, then let out a soft sigh, quieting down and holding your hand. Are you injured? You shook your head, hugging him tightly, and apologizing for not listening to him, telling him that your curiosity got the best of you, while he told you not to do that again. Because, God, if anything were to happen to you, he knew he would lose it. He really would.